In 1924, Claude Montefiore, who was one of the founders of liberal Judaism, wrote this: "I had to think about a sermon for Hill Street. I wish I had never to do another sermon. They take hours and worry me." This is one of many interesting insights into Montefiore's writings you can find in the new biography by Brian Diamond, which has just been published. I would commend to your attention the little display which is outside the Montefiore Hall in the foyer about Claude Montefiore, and copies of his books are obtainable from reception in the synagogue. And I remember my father telling me that as a young man, he may still have been a teenager, he used to come on Yom Kippur afternoon like so many others, especially to hear Claude Montefiore's stirring rendition of the book of Jonah. And I see from this afternoon that many still come back at that time to hear Jonah. May Claude Montefiore's name be for a blessing. This day stands at the center of many cycles, both real and invented. The natural cycle of the year, as the days begin to grow stormy and darker, and the invented cycles of our tradition. Our Torah reading calendar, which ends and then begins again. Our 3 weeks of autumn festivals, which revolve around this day. And at the center of this central day is this afternoon. The spiritual center, when in some ways we're at our lowest, rather worn, rather tired, rather lost. And so as not to be alone at what is a sad time, we come to be together as a community, not to hold conversation, there are other times for that, but to read the words in the book, to think, and to pray, and yes, to feel rather sorry for ourselves and our losses and our mortality. In our very splendidly performed Musaf service earlier this afternoon, we mourned for the losses in our history, the losses our people have suffered throughout the generation. And in a few minutes, in our Yizkor, our memorial service, we will mourn for our own losses, our own families, family and friends and teachers. I was once at a funeral and I noticed there was a woman whom I didn't know who was in floods of tears. I inquired who she was, and I was told that she was the first wife, the previous wife, of the man who just died, and that she'd not met him for 15 years. Clearly, she was weeping for the marriage that had gone wrong. She was mourning for herself. And we all do this. At times of grief, we think of ourselves and those around us, the survivors. And at times of memory, such as this, we think of the wit and wisdom that's gone and lament a little that we are left behind. As the Irish poet William Butler Yeats put it, and bending down beside the glowing bars, we murmur a little sadly, how love fled, and paced upon the mountains overhead, and hid his face amid a crowd of stars. And of course, fasting also makes us conscious of our bodily needs and thus our own mortality. Our mortality is a central theme of Yom Kippur, the mystery of life and what it means, the knowledge that we are but passing through this world, the urgency to leave our mark on it while we are here. It is the arrogant of this world who somehow imagine they can cheat the inevitable through acquisitiveness or power. But the rest of us know that is impossible. But through this thought, our compassion, our feeling for others begins to emerge. When I have spent time with those close to the end of their lives, I know how many will be left behind, bereft and grief-stricken. But I know too that those who pass from this world are simply traveling ahead of us, and that I too will follow them into the unknown. And when we stop to think about that, as we do today, we are afraid. We fear the time to come. We fear what is in store for us, and we fear pain. We know that this world will not allow us to escape grief and suffering. And so we come here to find comfort, even though it is hard. And we come to realize through our time together that we are part of a wider reality, whether or not we think of it as divine. We can recognize that we're all part of a constant stream of human life, and yet in this moment, in this special time, we have become part of something unchanging, part of a day which was familiar to those who came before us, and which will be familiar to those yet to come when we are long forgotten, and we have a glimpse, therefore, of the finest that it can mean to be human, to create those places or those ideas or those times which last. For we cannot cheat death, but we can make space for what is going to endure, as this day will. And though the precise group of people here in this room and online now is utterly unique and will never gather again precisely, others will come here and to other places and glimpse what we have glimpsed, and think the same thoughts and see the same visions. And although it is strange and unusual, it is also a comfort to know that our feeble lives are part of a greater stream of life, which we can glimpse and we can express. And perhaps we can realize that we can, as our memorial service puts it, be able to live in deeds, not years, in thoughts, not breaths, in feelings, not in figures on a dial. This whole season of the Jewish year is in truth a journey of transformation. Whether or not we think about it beforehand, we all enter the season on Rosh Hashanah feeling unprepared. And yet, it does its work on us, never more powerfully than on this day. We lament, yes, those we've lost. But sometimes too we lament what never was, the way we would have liked our life to be, because now it seems the dream has vanished along with the reality. And what is it that we do when we leave at the end of Yom Kippur? We wish each other Shana Tova, a good year. In the turning cycle of the year, after we reach the depths, the only way is upward. And slowly the knowledge returns that this world consists of far more than grief and pain, and that every one of us can experience many joys and much happiness and many times and places of great beauty. I think of this day as like the process of bereavement itself, a tunnel that we have to go through, a time that takes us to the most sorrowful places in our hearts, but in the end to glimpse, as we surely must in a tunnel, the light at the other end. In a few days' time, we go outside and we declare, what do houses and buildings matter anyway? Let's enjoy the fresh air. And so we celebrate our happiest festival, Zaman Simchatenu, the season of our joy, as the weather gets worse. How crazy is that? William Butler Yeats again, his brief but profound poem, The Cloths of Heaven. Had I the heavens embroidered cloths, inwrought with golden and silver light, the blue and the dim and the dark cloths of night and light and the half-light, I would spread the cloths under your feet. But I, being poor, have only my dreams. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams. May our memorial service this afternoon bring us the comfort that the poet sought, strengthen our resilience and our dreams for the future, and lead us towards that peace and strength of mind we all need. And may all who mourn find some additional comfort by being here with us today.